Hey everyone, and welcome to Pod 4 Journal Club. You know, we're always breaking down fascinating new research here, and today we've got a really thought-provoking one. It's all about the deep, often hidden connections between the AI we see developed every day and its use in modern warfare. This isn't just about killer robots, it's about the people writing the code. What's their role? What's their responsibility? Let's get into it.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by looking at how AI is already a player on the battlefield. Then, we're going to unpack this really powerful idea called the implicated subject. It's a whole new way to think about who's responsible. After that, we'll trace the web of connections from the lab to the military, dig into why this is so complex, and finally, look at what the paper suggests as a path forward.
All right, so let's just dive right into the heart of the matter. As AI becomes more and more powerful, there's this one question that we just can't sidestep anymore.
And this is the question the paper throws right at us, right from the beginning. It's designed to make us look past the obvious answers, past the soldiers or the politicians. It forces us to consider that whole long chain of creation, the researchers, the universities, the big tech companies that actually brought these technologies into existence in the first place.
And the authors make this crystal clear. This is not some far-off science fiction dilemma. It's not a what-if. They point to reports that these very systems are already being used, and with devastating results. And that, right there, just yanks the AI researcher's role out of the abstract world of a laboratory and plops it straight into the very real, very messy world of human conflict.
So, to really get a handle on a situation this complex, the authors bring in a really powerful idea from a scholar named Michael Rothberg. And this concept is the absolute core of their argument. It's a way of looking at responsibility that goes way beyond just pointing fingers.
Okay, so this is the key. What is an implicated subject? Well, it's not the person actually pulling the trigger, but it might be someone who is part of the system that designed the weapon, or maybe someone who benefited from the research funding that created it. It's not about guilt, you see. It's about just understanding where you stand inside a much bigger machine.
And this quote from Rothberg is where it gets really interesting, because it totally shifts the focus. It's not just about what you do, but it's also about what you don't do. The whole argument here is that by being part of these systems, even in a passive way, researchers can end up reinforcing a status quo that allows harm to happen.
So let's make this super clear. Think of it this way. A perpetrator is the one who directly causes harm. The implicated subject, though, they might have just benefited from the research grant that helped design a targeting algorithm, or maybe they just enjoyed the career boost from working at a company that has military contracts. It's a shift from direct blame to what you might call structural responsibility.
Okay, so now that we have this framework of the implicated subject in our heads, let's see how the paper traces these connections. It argues this whole web of involvement isn't some random accident. No, it's the result of a long, tangled history.
And you can see here, this isn't something that just popped up yesterday. I mean, from the very dawn of AI as a field, military money has been shaping what it aims to do. The paper even points out how so-called basic research grants from the Department of Defense often serve another purpose, to build relationships and kind of create a pipeline of talent for the defense industry.
Wow, just look at this number. It perfectly captures the staggering scale of what's been happening lately. A 16-fold increase in a single year. I mean, that's not a trickle of funding. It's a fire hose of cash, and it makes it incredibly hard for researchers to find opportunities that have zero connection to military goals.
And then, of course, you've got the tech giants. The paper highlights how these companies, which are basically the epicenters of AI research, also act as this super important bridge. They're not just creating the AI models, they're also deep into huge contracts with military and state agencies around the world.
But, and this is really important, the authors are super careful not to just paint with a broad brush. This is not about condemning everyone equally. They argue that within this whole web, responsibility is not, and really cannot be, spread out evenly.
And they call this complex implication. It's such a key idea because it admits that people have wildly different amounts of power and face different levels of risk. Think about it. A tenured professor running a lab has way more say over funding than a PhD student who just needs a grant to graduate. So the authors are clear. Any real response has to start with looking honestly at your own specific place in the system.
So after painting this really complex, kind of troubling picture, you might be thinking, wow, this sounds pretty bleak. But what's great is that the paper doesn't just leave us there in despair. It actually offers a path forward. It asks how someone who's implicated can become someone who acts in solidarity.
And they lay out 4 pretty concrete strategies. It starts deep down at the philosophical level, questioning the very definition of intelligence we're all working with. Then it moves to really practical stuff, like refusing military funding, building teams with people who think alike, and, if it comes to it, taking direct action. Altogether, it's a kind of roadmap for moving from being a passive part of the system to being an active force for change.
And look, this isn't just wishful thinking. The paper points to real-world examples where people banding together has made a real difference, from that famous employee campaign that got Google to pull out of Project Maven to ongoing movements you might have heard of. It just goes to show that change really is possible when people organize.
And so, the explainer leaves us with this one last, really powerful question. It kind of turns the whole thing back on us, whether we're in tech or not. In a world full of these massive, complicated systems, where does our own responsibility actually begin? If you take one thing away from this, it should be this new way of thinking about responsibility in the age of AI. It's about shifting our view from simple blame to just being aware of our place in a much bigger picture. So what do you think about all this? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to continue the conversation. And hey, if you enjoy deep dives like this, make sure you're subscribed to Pod 4 Journal Club. Thanks for watching.